Hi, thanks for joining me for the Gold Standard. I am Jennifer Goldman, and I'm here to help nonprofit leaders, also small business leaders, learn their model of profitability. So, what I like to do is help nonprofit leaders incorporate more business practices into their organizations so that they can become more profitable and help grow their programs and be more sustainable. So, I gave a presentation earlier this year, several actually, where we talked about reliance ratios. And I know some of the people that were in the audience were saying that this was a concept that they really enjoyed learning about, but couldn't really remember how to translate it back when talking to their board. So I thought these videos might be a great way to start some of these conversations. I know we did one earlier on the variance report, and today we're going to talk about reliance ratios. So this has to do with funding your organization. How are you fundraising? How effective is it? And today, the reliance ratios are going to show you a way to analyze how dependent you might be on any particular income stream or funder. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Hopefully, the slideshow will go. I figured if I was going to bring up math, it would be helpful to have visual aids here. So what are the ratios all about? As I mentioned, we're working on your business model, your method of profitability. And this is a good conversation starter to have with your board or your staff to talk about how you fund your organization or your business. First step is in discovering who or what you might be dependent on for your organization's income and gauging that risk. So we're not going to talk as much about gauging your risk today, but that will be another video that I do. So if this video is brand new, when you're seeing it, come back another time and look for the gauging video or gauging risk video. If you're seeing this a little bit later, hopefully it is there on the Gold Standard playlist that you can go and just pull that one up next because they do really interrelate. This is also a good way to introduce brainstorming and brainstorming around additional income streams. So what you might find through some of this analysis is that you may be too dependent on one source or another. I know I've worked with organizations that basically had 100% or 75, 80% of their annual income came from one particular funder. And that's not really a sustainable model because what if something happens to that? So this is a good way to show people how much you're relying on any particular income sources and what might be possible as far as diversifying a little bit more. And it's a great way to decide if your fundraisers are proving worthwhile. So I will talk a little bit more about that as well as we go through this. So how many baskets do you have? You hear when we talk about finances, how many eggs do you have in your basket? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So first, let's talk about the baskets. How many do you have? So we have first the reliance ratio. How much do you depend on any one income stream? And when I say income stream, I mean a category of income. So you can see here, I made a little chart and you're looking just at the income stream. So just a category, so grants. So there might be one grant that is in this category. There could be 12 grants that are in this category, but we're just dealing with the category now, the income stream. So for this fictitious organization, their annual budget is made up of grants, corporate sponsorships, special events, and family and individual donations. And you can see here their total income for the year is $180,000. So what we're going to do here when we get to the next slide is we're going to take the largest income stream, and that would be corporate sponsorships. And we're going to talk about what corporate sponsorships are in relationship to their total annual income. So you can see here this reliance ratio, and I know it looks more like words, but this is actually a fraction, a math problem here. The amount of your largest income stream divided by your total annual income. So as I mentioned on the last slide, corporate sponsorships was the largest income stream at $100,000 versus their total income, which was 180. So if we do that math problem here, and lucky for you, I did it ahead of time. Lucky for me, I did it ahead of time. But you can see the math problem worked out here. So we took $100,000 divided by $180,000, which equals 0.555. So if you remember back to your elementary school or middle school, whenever we learned this, decimal days, if you move the decimal over 2 points to the right, you come up with a percentage. So Corporate sponsorships are 56% of this organization's annual income. And so that's a lot, especially when you consider there's only 4 income streams. 56% is a very large amount to be reliant on one particular source of income. So this is also a discussion to have with your board, your finance committee, whoever is helping with budgets, or maybe just everybody in the staff and board. Where's your comfort level? What level of comfort do you feel is good for your organization to be reliant on? Is 56% perfectly fine? Is 56% outside of your comfort zone? What does that mean to you? And when we go into the gauging risk video, we'll also talk about, not only does this seem like a large number to me, 56% of your income is reliant on corporate sponsorships, but what is the risk to that? And how steady is that? How comfortable do we feel? 56% is large, but how comfortable are we with the amount of corporate sponsorships we're bringing in, and that we can be consistent there? So right now we're dealing with the analysis part of this, and we'll deal with risk later on. So now, as you're looking at how many baskets you have and how reliant you are on that largest income stream, we're going to talk about how many eggs are all in one basket now, which is the single reliance ratio. This is a different one. Here's your math problem. It is your single largest income source divided by your total annual income. So now we were dealing with income streams before. Now we're dealing with income sources. So here's where we want to take, say, that grant budget where I said it could be, one grant, it might be 12. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the largest income source we have in any particular basket and divide that by our total annual income to see, our biggest individual funders, not just the categories now, but our individual funders, how reliant are we on any particular one? So the single reliance ratio, as we said, we're going to look at each income stream and take a look at which funder is the largest in each category. So going back to that grants, it's not the largest income stream, but now we're looking at this basket and analyzing it. So that $50,000 of grant income that we had in the income stream is made up of 2 different grants. We have the Great Grant Association and the Local Family Foundation at $40,000 and $10,000 respectively for what they're bringing in. So obviously under grants, the Great Grant Association would be the largest income source. And so we're going to do that math problem that we saw on the last slide, and we're going to take the amount of our largest funder divided by the amount of our annual budget. So you can see here, that's $40,000 divided by that $180,000 total annual income that we saw earlier, or 0.22222, which is 22% of the budget. So what we see here is that 22% of our annual budget, or this organization's annual budget, is reliant on this one association. And again, what is your comfort level here? Is 22% okay with you to be reliant on one funder? What is the risk to that funder? Is that, is the Great Grant Association a long-term partner and their funds are really stable for you? Is it in flux? Every year you have to fill out a grant application all over again and go back into the pot to be, competing with everybody else. So right now we just want to gauge, how reliant are we comfortable with being on this one source of income? So what do? Let's say you work through these math problems and you figure out how reliant you are on particular income streams or particular sources of income. What if you're uncomfortable with this? What can you do? So you can increase your annual income to make you less reliant on any one income stream or source, unless you wind up getting more of the same. So basically what we want to do is, let's say, what did we say? The first income stream, which was corporate sponsorships, was the largest. If we made more than, if this organization made more than $180,000 annual income, let's say they made $280,000, that 56% would be less now. The $100,000 out of 280, which I'm not going to try to do the math in my head right now, but the larger your annual income is, the less reliant you're going to be on that. That percentage is going to go down. So basically what we're trying to do is diversify so that we're not so dependent. Obviously, you don't want to turn down any income, but the more you diversify, the smaller those percentages of reliance get. You can add new income streams. As we said, this one organization has 4 income streams. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe we need to find more ways of making money and bringing money into the organization. You can add new funders. Maybe you're good with the 4 income streams you have. You just need additional funders within some of those buckets. And then also seek additional funds from smaller funders. So if you can get more money from some of the income streams and income sources that you're not so heavily reliant on, then you equal out that dependency a little bit more. In some cases, you might want to leverage large sources of income to negotiate additional funding from other sources. For example, big box corporation might be your biggest corporate sponsor. Can you take their pledge for next year's sponsorship to the bigger box corporation and see if they're willing to match it? So can we leverage some of what we have from one source to get some or more from another source? Maybe you have maybe it's sponsorship money. It could be local government money. The town is giving us this because they see us as really important and essential in our community, but our services spread to a much larger area than the city. So maybe then we're going to take those city funds and go to the county and saying, okay, if we had county funds that were, say, double or triple what the city is giving us, then our services could be more robust in the entire community. So look at seeing if you have some leverage here. Also, I encourage you to look at the smallest income streams and sources and evaluate the resources that go into them. So this is where we're saying, are some of those income streams really worthwhile? Are these things worthwhile? Would your organization be better off investing its resources elsewhere? So I know when I work with particular organizations, they're usually looking at evaluating their special events and trying to decide how worthwhile they are, because they wind up spending a lot of staff time, a lot of volunteer hours, and a lot of money. And sometimes we look at that and we say, okay, look at what we have here. We're 56% dependent upon corporate sponsors. We have grants in 50,000, but we spend all of this time and money and resources in special events. And it was only, what did we see in the front chart, like $10,000 out of 180. It's such a small percentage. Now we need to look at that. So I encourage you not only to go back through those reliance ratios to look at the biggest sources, but you might also want to do the math on the smaller sources just to say, wow, look at what we put into this and look at the return on investment for it. So always be looking at that as well. What is worth our time and effort here? Could we make the, all the time and resources that we put into special events, what if we just filled out one more grant application to get another 10,000? Think of how much volunteer time we could put towards something else. So be looking at all of that as well. And really what we're trying to do, the whole overall umbrella of doing this, is to really take a look at the income sources we have. Are we well diversified enough? How reliant are we on any particular things? What are the resources we're putting in the investments we're getting, the return on investments that we're getting back out? And what is going to make us a healthier, more sustainable, financially responsible organization? So I urge you to take a look at this, just like you're a business person. And businesses I see normally do a better job of trying to figure out their quantitative measures. So when we have numbers like this, sometimes it helps stir those conversations. So I imagine as you start doing this, you probably have a pretty good idea of how the numbers are going to work out. You know who you're more dependent on than others. You know how many buckets and baskets you have. But this is a really good way to put those quantitative measurements on there. It's also a really good way to compare. Start off this year and see what you've got, put some strategy together to be a little more diversified and sustainable next year, and then do the ratios again. How did our strategy work out? Are we more diversified? Do we feel like we've reached a more sustainable level? So take a look at all of that and keep them recorded. This is good data for you to have. Some of this can also translate into annual reports and other things that you might want to use all of these numbers and data to show to partners, to potential funders. So do take a look at this from varying angles to see what you can do with these numbers. How can you play with them? How can you have this help your organization become more sustainable? So that is the end of this. Sorry, I didn't mean to just blank out the screen, but I want to make sure that was the very last slide. If you have any questions about this, please put them in the comment section or reach out to me. There's contact information in the bio of the YouTube channel. But also, this is a really great way for you to start these conversations. You might want to bring up this video or any of the other videos that you find really beneficial for your organization. Take the YouTube channel into your next board meeting. And this way, everybody can have the benefit of seeing the video that you learned something from to help you all be on the same page and having those conversations. And if you do that, I would love to hear from you. Like, I took this to my board and oh my gosh, we had so much conversation and so many decisions were made. I would love to know that the things that I'm putting out there are really beneficial to you as a leader, as well as to your entire organization. So please, I would love it if you would save the videos, share them with the others in your organization, and leave me comments. Let me know how it works out and what other topics might be interesting to you. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.